What's happening everyone, my name is Alex and welcome back to a new review. For today I have one of the cheapest phones that's using the Mediatek Helio P23. This right here, it's called the M-Horse Pure 3 and you can find it for as low as $160. So what do we get for that money? Well, first of all, we get a phone that's made out of plastic, so you're not gonna get that premium feel that we usually get with phones that are made out of metal. So the back and the frame of the phone are made out of plastic. On the front we have a 5.7-inch screen that has a resolution of 1440 by 720, so we only have a resolution of 720p technically. We have 4 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs of internal storage, and as always, out of that 64 gigs of internal storage we only have about 54 gigs left, but the phone can take an SD card and that SD card can be used as internal storage. On the back of the phone we have a couple of cameras, so we have a 13 megapixel camera and a 5 megapixel camera. We also have a flash and a fingerprint scanner. Now the fingerprint scanner works good 10 out of 10 times, but as always it's not the fastest out there, so it takes like a second after you press the fingerprint scanner for the screen to unlock. Same story on the front, we get a front facing flash, we have a 8 megapixel camera, a 5 megapixel camera, and we also have a notification light. So even though we have 4 cameras, 2 of the cameras are actually fake, or they don't do anything, or they're just useless. So if you're planning to take any of those pictures with the blur effect or the bokeh effect as they call it, well, don't get your hopes too high, because all the pictures that you're gonna take with that blur effect are pretty horrible. If we leave that blur effect aside, the main camera on the front of the phone and the main camera on the back of the phone are actually decent, so I'm not even sure why they included those fake cameras. Most selfies that you're gonna take are very sharp and detailed, and the colors are also very accurate. Now, if you take pictures in low light, of course, the pictures are gonna become a bit grainy, but that's pretty normal for any budget phone. And moving to the 13 megapixel camera on the back of this phone, well, that one it's even better than the front-facing camera. So once again, all the pictures are very sharp and detailed, the colors are very accurate, and even the dynamic range is good enough for a phone that costs about $160. I was also surprised to see how good the pictures turn out in low light, because with most budget phones, well, the pictures that you're gonna take in low light don't look that good. Well, with this one the pictures are sharp enough so you can actually use them on social media or anything like that. So overall this phone has 2 great cameras, and I'm not sure why they included those fake cameras. Alright, and leaving those cameras aside and moving to the right hand side of the phone, there we have the power button and the volume keys, and the buttons are made out of metal and they are also positioned in the right spot, so every time you pick up the phone your finger goes right on that power button. We don't have anything at the top, and on the left hand side we have the slot for the SIM card, so this device can take either 2 SIM cards or a SIM card and an SD card. And moving to the bottom of the phone, there we have a microphone, we have a USB-C port and a speaker. Now the speaker sounds fairly good and probably better than a lot of other phones that I've seen for around $160. But here is a quick sample of how the speaker sounds. You probably noticed by now that we don't have a 3.5mm audio jack, and in my opinion that's a mistake, because you don't sell a cheap phone and expect people to have USB-C headphones, because realistically not too many people have USB-C headphones, so they should have included a 3.5mm audio jack, at least in my opinion. And talking about that USB-C port, the phone supports OTG as well, and that means that you can plug in any USB stick and the phone can read what you have on that USB stick, and the phone also supports fast charging, so charging the phone from 0 to 100 is done in about 2 hours. And that brings us to the battery life. So inside this phone we have a 4000 mAh battery. So I was able to go for about a day and a half on one charge, and out of that I'm estimating that I got around 8 to 9 hours of screen on time. Now unfortunately the phone doesn't show detailed information about how the battery was used, but that's a rough estimation, so about 8 to 9 hours of screen on time. And we are moving to the 5.7-inch screen on the front of the device. So as I said before, we only get a resolution of 1440 by 720p. Now for the size of the screen, I think the resolution is good enough. I know a lot of you are gonna disagree with that, but for me I think the resolution is good enough. The colors look great, the viewing angles are also good, but I wish the screen would get a bit brighter, because if you take the phone outside and it's bright outside, it's kind of hard to see it. Aside from that, the screen sensitivity is also good, and the screen can register up to 5 touches at the same time. As for the navigation buttons, well, they are sitting at the bottom of the screen and they can be moved around from the software. So if you don't like where the back button is sitting, you can just move it on the other side and so on. And we are moving to the phone's performance. So first of all, we have Android 7.1.1 running on this device, and we also have a very light skin on top of that Android 7.1.1, and that's great because it keeps the phone very speedy and very fluid. The score that we got on the Antutu benchmark is about 60,000, and that's very normal for that Mediatek Helio P23. Since we have 4 gigs of RAM, the multitasking is also decent, and the phone can keep a whole bunch of apps running in the background and it's not gonna close them. I've also tried the split screen function from Android 7, and that one works good for certain apps. So if you have like the Facebook app and the browser open, well, the Facebook app will lag, but if you have like the YouTube app running there and the browser, those will work good. So it really depends what apps you have running at the same time. Opening apps is not the quickest thing out there. It's gonna take like a second after you press the icon for the app to open, and depending what apps you are using, you may even find some lag whenever you're scrolling through your feeds. And I'm mostly talking about the Facebook app, maybe the Twitter app at times, and so on. So if you're coming from a faster phone, like a flagship phone, this will feel somewhat slower, but if you're coming from an older phone, this will feel fast. The YouTube app works great, but the maximum resolution is 720p because that's technically the maximum resolution of the screen, but at least you can zoom in so you can take full advantage of that 18:9 screen. I also tried some games on it, and since PUBG and Fortnite are super popular at this time, of course I had to install PUBG so I can see how well it does. Now, you're not going to be able to play it at maximum settings, but if you lower the settings to medium, it kind of works. Now, you're going to see some skipped frames here and there, and if you don't like those skipped frames, you're going to have to lower the graphics settings to low, and then it works good, but the phone gets fairly hot, mostly around the camera there. So, for gaming, this is not the most perfect device, but it can still do some games. And we are moving on to the GPS unit inside this phone. So it only takes a couple of seconds to find your location, and once your location is found, the phone doesn't seem to lose it. And of course I tried Google Maps on it and it works great. As for sensors, we have a whole bunch of sensors including a gyroscope, so you could technically use this phone as a VR headset. Now, considering that we have a 720p resolution, I don't think this phone is gonna be that great for VR, but if that's what you wanna do with it, you can definitely do it. And we are moving on to connectivity. So the phone supports dual band Wi-Fi and 4G connectivity. And here in Canada, the phone works on the 2G networks and on the 4G networks, but definitely check the bands before you buy this phone and make sure they match your carrier. Now, the speaker on top here gets loud enough so you can hear most conversations, so no complaints about that. And the speeds over the 4G network and the dual band Wi-Fi are also decent. And it's time to conclude this video. So for about $160, the phone is not bad. I mean, the cameras take okay pictures, the phone looks okay, but it's made out of plastic. The battery life is okay, but nothing spectacular. So everything about this phone is kind of average. So it's not a bad phone, but there is nothing spectacular about this phone. But if you like how it looks or how the pictures look, it's gonna be a good buy because the phone is not bad, but it's just average and nothing spectacular. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did like it, press that like button, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.